But by far and away, the most important part of this screen is, and this is a segue into entering ag activities for the PUE program. So as you can imagine, we already have inspection forms, investigation forms, enforcement response forms, and training and outreach forms in our CalPEATS system. And if you're in there entering your PUE activity anyway, it would seem to be a better idea for you to just add your time on those forms, just like you would for, entering pest detection or entering a weights and measures inspection. So in order to create that magic, we have a relationship between CalCATS and CalPEATS. They are different systems, so we can't use a single sign-on solution. So in order to make the magic happen, you need to tell CalCATS who you are in CalPEATS. And you'll use this section on the bottom left to do that. I'm already connected, so I don't have the connect button, but what you'll see initially when you log in is you'll have a button that says connect my CalPEATS account. And when you click on it, it'll ask you to enter your CalPEATS username and password, just like you would if you were at the CalPEATS login screen. Let me just pull up CalPEATS so you'll know what I'm talking about. So the same username and password you would enter on this screen, you'll just enter them in this pop-up box. You'll click OK, and it'll verify that you entered the right username and password. And if you did, then it will show your CalPEATS username here. Okay, so that's a really important step in making sure you're integrating with the CalPEATS program. And the reason why you'll do that is what we're going to cover next. Okay, so back on our timesheet, when I go to enter a new activity, right, it's not one of my favorites, so I'll click the new all activities. One of them is report 5. And I'm sure many of you remember that horrible old single page report 5 thing that was the hardest thing in the world to read. We've simplified report 5 as much as we can. But on report 5, that's the official Kramer sort of time tracking form. There are lots of sections about inspections, permitting, use reporting, CalAg permit stuff, investigations and enforcement, and then other kinds of activities. And I'll cover, other parts of this form in a bit. But the first thing is inspections. So you'll see that these cells it's a little hard to tell the various shades of gray on here, but under the hours box, I don't have a way of entering, for example, my pre-app inspection time, my field worker safety inspection time, etc. And the reason for that is the note right here. Some fields are display only because time entry is enabled in CalPEATS. So how do I get time to show up for today under, say, a pesticide use monitoring inspection, a 104? Right, good question. Let me log into CalPEATS. You notice I'm logging in as CaliCo 39. That's the user ID that my CalCATS account is connected to. And I go and enter a new 104 for today. Now, this is not a CalPEATS training session, so I'm going to skip over a lot of what's on this form. But one thing has changed since I became a CalCATS enabled county, and that is right here, you'll see an entry in your list of information topics for time entry. Okay, and when I click on that, I'll see a time entry widget here, and I can add time for this inspection. So today I spent 3.5 hours. I'm not going to bother tracking mileage, and my remarks are field time performing inspection. Okay. Now, in the background, there's a process that runs every 5 minutes that looks at all these CalPEATS time entries and copies them over to CalCATS and will post them on the correct timesheet based on who entered this time. Okay, so while I'm talking, that process will happen probably in 2 minutes. And then we'll go have a look in CalCATS and we'll see that 3.5 hours is reflected there. But before I move off of here, the time entry in CalPEATS is very flexible. So I can enter time for today. I can also enter time for other dates. So let's say yesterday, I spent half an hour preparing for this inspection. I don't know what I was doing, but I'm going to bill half an hour of time to it. So I can enter, as many entries as I need. Maybe tomorrow, I know it's not tomorrow yet, but let's say tomorrow, I'm going to spend another hour finalizing the inspection report. Okay, so I'm not constrained to just the day of the inspection. I can track all of my time associated with this inspection through the time entry widget. Another thing is once I'm finished with this inspection, right, I'm going to pass it on to my supervisor for review, and my supervisor is going to spend some time reviewing it. This time entry widget is enabled for the supervisor as well. So I would log in as the supervisor and I would add my quarter of an hour or 20 minutes to these time entries on the same inspection, even though it's not my inspection. So a very flexible way of entering time in CalPEATS lets anyone who gets involved with an activity enter their time on that activity. And it's not just inspections, right? There are 4 things that we track in CalPEATS. We'll hop back to the dashboard here. You can enter time on inspections. You can enter time on investigations. You can enter time on enforcement responses. And when I say enforcement responses, I mean all the separate components of an enforcement response. You can enter it on the enforcement response itself. You can enter it on the NOPA, on the violation notice record, whatever record you're entering in the enforcement response module, you have a time entry widget that you can record your time with. And then the last isn't on the dashboard, but the last component we track here that's part of the Primer is your training and outreach sessions. So whenever I have a training and outreach session registered in the system, the time entry widget is present there as well. Okay, so all your time for inspections, investigations, enforcement responses, and training and outreach, you'll enter in CalPEATS along with the existing records that are there documenting the other activity data.
John and Paula had a question about, I think she's compiling the hours of all the inspectors on a monthly basis.
Yep, the answer is no. Paula, you don't have to compile any data if your inspectors are entering their time in CalPEATS. And it gets better, because I'm sure you or someone else in the county is then compiling all the other stuff that goes into the Primer and manual entering it in CalPEATS. That magically will go away, and that's what we're going to talk about next. Okay, so having all of your staff entering their time in CalPEATS as they're performing the activities and recording, all the other metadata that goes along with those activities, when I come back to my timesheet, we'll now see, so on the 23rd, 24th, and 25th, I have new entries on my time card, half hour, 3.5 hours, and 1 hour. And where did those come from? Well, if I double click on them, you'll see those are my pesticide regulatory activities. Okay, so that data, that time got transferred into CalCATS from CalPEATS. Now let's go take a look at my report 5 activity record for those days. And you'll see that time also appears on this form. Right, so this is my Primer report 5 daily summary for today. And I'll see my 3.5 hours that I did on that 104 inspection. If I jump back to yesterday, I'll see the half hour prep time. And if I jump forward to tomorrow, I'll see the 1 hour of finalizing the report time. So all that data is integrated for you, again, just by connecting your CalCATS and your CalPEATS account. Similarly, if I scroll down, you'll see we have investigations, compliance actions, enforcement referral actions. All of these fields are filled out for you through that CalPEATS, CalCATS integration, as well as your training and outreach time. All the other categories of the Primer, right? Every month right now, you have to enter surveillance hours. You have to enter a number of restricted materials permits denied for ag and non-ag, number of NOIs approved and denied. These are all things you have to track outside of your normal systems. And enter them every month into Pramer. Well, instead of that, now the staff who's performing that work will enter those on your daily report 5 summary. So if I did an hour of surveillance on that day and I did 12 NOI reviews that I approved, 2 that I denied, and that was another 2 hours, I can fill out all the rest of my Pramer activity on this report 5 entry form. Save that. Now that magic happens in the other direction, right? So CalPEATS told CalCATS about my inspection time, and CalCATS is going to turn around now and tell CalPEATS about my surveillance time and my NOI review time and all the other time that I spend in the PUE program. And when I hop back to CalPEATS, when you go look at the data entry screen for monthly activity, you're going to see only these 3 categories are still manual entry, right? In all the other categories, you'll see it says this value is managed by CalCATS, is not editable here. What you'll actually see, let me jump forward to next fiscal year, you'll see this. Just three data entry points. And FYI, we're working in CalAg permits to get rid of these as well, which will completely eliminate all manual entry for Pramer. But as of right now, you'll only have these 3. What you'll see, though, is you'll have a new CalCATS entry only, and this tells you this is all the data that has been sent to CalPEATS from CalCATS. So if I go down to my surveillance hours, you'll see my 1 hour of surveillance got automatically transferred for this month into CalPEATS by me filling out my report 5 in CalCATS. Okay, so all of that time is integrated in both ways. But for your inspectors, your PUE inspectors, all they need to know is when they're doing CalPEATS activities, they'll see a time entry widget. They should enter their time there. And for everything else PUE related, they'll fill out a report 5 every day to summarize all the other activity. And then all of that data is distributed to the places where it needs to be reported.